All right. Well, we are going to go ahead and begin. My name is Matthew Catanese. I'm the director here for financial aid at College for Creative Studies. With me today, I have Iman Nasir, financial aid counselor in my office. She will be answering any of your questions from here on out. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat while the presentation is ongoing, or if you want to write them down, you can ask us at the end when we have a Q&A session. So today we're going to be doing financial aid, and what we're going to be covering today is what is financial aid? Different categories, types, and sources of financial aid. We're going to touch on the cost of attendance. We're going to go through each section of your free application for federal student aid or FAFSA application. We're going to explain to you what the FAFSA output is, the expected family contribution. And then we'll talk about financial need. So the burning question, what is financial aid? Financial aid is any form of funding that helps pay for your post-secondary education that does not come from family or personal savings or earnings. So with that said, what does financial aid cover? It helps cover the cost of tuition, mandatory fees, housing, meal plan, necessary books and supplies. So types of financial aid. Generally speaking, there's 4 categories of financial aid. You have your self-help aid, which contains loans and work study, which is on campus or off campus employment through the school or institution. And then you have your gift aid, scholarships and grants. Now, sources of financial aid, they can come from the federal government, your individual states, colleges and universities, private resources, and even your employers. So the first type of financial aid I want to touch on is scholarships. Scholarships are generally aid that does not need to be paid back. It's awarded based on merit, skill, or unique characteristic. It's generally received from the school or from a private company or organization. And there's a minimum GPA requirement where you must maintain it in order to continue use of the scholarship. So CCS scholarships. Here at CCS, all applicants are automatically considered for merit-based scholarships once they complete their admissions requirements. On average, our admission scholarship range is about $22,000 per year. So an average scholarship is $88,000 over the course of 4 years. The awards are based on portfolio and cumulative GPA. Merit scholarships are announced at the time of admission after October 15th, so it's a rolling basis. There is an early action deadline. It's a non-committal deadline, but that is December 1st. Transfer students are eligible for scholarships. In order to maintain your scholarship eligibility, you need to earn and maintain a cumulative GPA of a 2.5 or higher. So we also offer Scholastic Art Scholarships. So these are CCS awards additional to high school students who win a gold or silver medal at a national Scholastic Art level. So the national gold medal recipients receive $2,000 per year for 4 years, so a total of $8,000. And then the national silver medal recipients receive $1,000 per year for 4 years, or a total of $4,000 total. The next type of financial aid is grants. So again, grants are usually a form of financial aid that does not need to be paid back. These are generally awarded based on financial need. They are received from the school, from the state or federal programs. And you must file a FAFSA in order to be reviewed for eligibility. So the grant programs that CCS offers is CCS Tuition Grant. We participate in the Michigan Tuition Grant and Competitive Scholarship on the state of Michigan level. Your federal Pell Grant, which is determined by your FAFSA application. And then also the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, or FSEOG for short. And this is also based on your FAFSA application. So another part of financial aid is the federal direct loans. So as the title states, this is money students and parents can borrow to help pay for college expenses. These funds need to be repaid, hence federal direct loans. So I want to make that very clear, that it is a loan, and you will be taking it to help with educational expenses, and that these are funds that do need to be repaid. So repayment usually begins after education is finished, as long as the student stays enrolled at least half time, which is 6 credits or above. The loans include, for the student, subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The only difference between these loans is that the unsubsidized loan is interest bearing. So you're being charged the interest as the loan disperses to the student's account. The current interest rate is 3.73%, and these are for the loans that are dispersed between July 1, 2021 and June 30th of 2022. So what that means is that every July, the Department of Education reviews the loan interest rates, and from there they determine whether or not to raise it, lower it, or keep it the same. For dependent students, you have the ability to talk with your parents about applying for the Federal Parent Plus loan. Now, this loan is interest bearing, it is credit based, and the current interest rate is at 6.28%. Another source of financial aid is work study. So work study allows students to earn money to help pay for educational expenses. It is on-campus employment opportunities at CCS. They do not need to file a FAFSA to be eligible for an on-campus job at CCS. And job postings can be viewed online via the financial aid office page. So for my international students or non-citizens, institutional financial aid is still available to you. We offer international students the International Student Grant, which is $1,500 per academic year. You also qualify for the CCS scholarship opportunities, and then you can also participate in the work study program. So other sources of financial aid. So you have your private scholarships, your private educational loans, college savings plans such as METs or 529 plans, or any other plans that your parent may have or grandparent may have set up for you. Employer tuition reimbursement. So if a dependent student, you would have your parents talk to the HR department to see if they have a dependent tuition reimbursement programs based on their benefit package. I know when I was going to school, my dad worked at Chrysler, or Stellantis as it's called now, and his dependents received $1,500 a year to put towards their educational expenses, and it was part of his benefit package. VA educational benefits, and then you guys can participate in institutional payment plans, which allow parents or students to split the remaining semester balance into 5 equal payments, 5 monthly payments, if they have any remaining balances. So when talking about the cost of attendance, every school has it. I refer to the cost of attendance as your sticker price. And it's broken down into 2 main categories: your billable costs and then your non-billable costs. So what the cost of attendance includes is your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses. So your billable costs, which are your chargeable costs, are your tuition and fees, room and board. So those are standardized throughout the whole process. So every student is charged tuition and fees, and if you're staying on campus, room and board. Your non-billable costs are your books and supplies, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses. These are expenses that you are going to incur at some level, but there's not a specific dollar amount that we can nail down for every single student. That is a standardized cost. So we take market value and we build that into the cost of attendance. So you may exceed that portion, you may come well below that portion. So every student has the same cost of attendance. So putting the cost of attendance into perspective, you have your sticker price here. So you have your tuition and fees, room and board, books and supplies, transportation, and personal. So if you were attending CCS today, staying on campus, your cost of attendance would look at $60,847. Now that's your sticker price. Now that's before any scholarships, any grants, any student loans, or anything like that. Okay. But the actual price. So you have your tuition and fees, which equate to $47,897 for a full-time enrolled student for fall and winter semester. Okay. If you stay in room and board, you're looking at $56,247. Again, that figure is before any grants, scholarships, or student loans are attached. So as you can see, tuition and fees is well below the cost of attendance figure. If you add room and board, it brings it a little bit closer, but you still have a little bit of gap. Okay. And what this allows the financial aid office to do is to award you up to the max of eligibility. So the $60,847, so that you can build in a cushion for these additional costs that you're going to incur. So the burning topic of the night is your FAFSA. And the good thing is you're coming in a day before it's actually, you can start filling it out. So hopefully I'm going to give you some good pointers, some tips, and so that you guys are all ready to go starting tomorrow. Or if you're ambitious, tonight at 12:01. So your FAFSA can begin, you can begin filing for the upcoming fall 2022, winter 2023 semesters as early as tomorrow, October 1. So the FAFSA must be completed each year. So it's not a one and done, and then you're covered for the next 4 years or 5 years. You got to complete it every year. The goal is every year around, on or around October 1. That way, if schools have need-based aid with small budgeted amounts, usually that money is given at first come, first serve, which is determined by your FAFSA file date. So that's just a tip. Right now, if you are planning on trying to still get into fall 21, winter 22, or summer 22, you can fill out right now your 2021-22 FAFSA application. For those that are looking at graduating high school, or maybe taking a gap year and starting to attend starting fall 2022, winter 2023, or summer 2023, you are going to fill out your FAFSA tomorrow. And you're going to be filling out the 22-23 FAFSA application. Good rule of thumb is, I always tell my students, I always advocate for this, the FAFSA should be filled out no later than February 1st. This, generally speaking, financial aid offices are awarding as early as January. So if you are one of those ambitious students that want to know your financial aid packages, want to make a decision as quickly as possible, maybe comparing, schools, you want to get your FAFSA filed so that schools can start reviewing that information, looking at that information, and coming up with a comprehensive financial aid package for you so that you can make the best educational expenses or educational choice. That's why I say no later than February 1st. For my Michigan residents, Michigan does have a priority deadline of March 1st, 2022 to qualify for Michigan Competitive Scholarship or the Michigan Tuition Grant. Unfortunately, there is no appeal time or date. There is no, I'm sorry, it failed, to be submitted. It's a hard deadline and it cannot be renegotiated. So That, again, my Michigan residents, is very important for you to fill it out by March 1st, 2022. This allows for adequate processing time within the financial aid office, and also the state of Michigan to determine their budget line items, to determine, what they have to ask the governor for the upcoming school year. And as I mentioned, CCS has a admissions early action deadline of December 1, where they will send out your scholarship package, and they will start accepting deposits, or and again, it's a non-committal date. So don't be worried if you don't have a decision by December 1, but they would prefer that so that they can start putting out, determining their scholarship amounts as well. So the free application for federal student aid, or your FAFSA application. So it collects demographic and financial information. This information is used to calculate the expected family contribution number, which we'll touch on later in the presentation. Colleges use the EFC to determine financial aid eligibility. So not just CCS, but if you are going to be attending a local community college, if you're going to be attending a public university or another institution, all colleges use that EFC number, regardless if it's at CCS, it's going to remain the same. So all colleges use the same number, and that's spit out by the FAFSA application. It is available in English and Spanish, and the preferred method to fill out your FAFSA application is online. However, if you are not tech savvy or you don't feel comfortable doing it online, there is a paper application which you can fill out and mail out to FAFSA, or you can also contact the FAFSA hotline and fill it out over the phone with a representative. So the eligibility requirements for FAFSA: you must be enrolling in a degree granting program. You must have a high school diploma or equivalent, and you must have established U.S. citizenship. So this is U.S. citizens, permanent residents of the freely associated states, or other eligible non-citizens. So what you will need before you begin. So generally speaking, if you have not done so already, you will want to establish an FSA ID and password. So this will need to be set up 3 to 4 days prior to you completing the FAFSA to allow the Social Security Administration to verify your identity. You will do the FSA ID and password requirements online at this website. And this will be your login for every year that you fill out the FAFSA application. So make notes of it, put it in your phone, however you want to remember it. The parent, if a dependent student, one parent will need to create an FSA ID and password. And this is what you'll use to electronically sign the FAFSA application upon submittal. You'll need the student and parent 2022 federal tax information, the student and parent 2020 W-2s or 1099 information. And then if you are a dependent student and your parent isn't with you while trying to fill this out, you'll need to know their information. So their marital status dates, social security number, date of birth. Okay. Oh, well, look at that. Again, it's highlighting that you guys need to set up the FSA ID and password prior to completing the FAFSA. So the FAFSA information tab. So the FAFSA completes and gets student demographics, it gets your school selections, it determines your dependency status. If you're dependent, then it'll ask you for your parent demographics and then your financial information, and then it'll ask you to sign and submit. So these are each sections of the FAFSA that we will be covering. So the student demographic. Now, if this is your first time filling it out, it's going to be monotonous. It's going to take a little longer. Generally, I would say around 30 to 35 minutes, you should hopefully have it done. FAFSA renewals, so next year, the following year, and etc. It'll be much quicker because you'll just be verifying the information. It'll auto-populate most of your demographic information. It'll ask you to confirm it that it's all the same. And then realistically, you'll just be updating your financials. So the student demographic collects your name, address, email address, citizenship status, marital status, high school completion status. Okay, so this all helps ensure that you are the student and all this information is matching with your FSA ID and password. So the next section, once you fill out the demographics, it'll ask you about your school selection. So it'll first have you confirm, your high school status and whether or not you are graduating or have graduated. Once you get through that section, you will input your school selection. So this is your college, university, etc. You can pick up to 10 schools. If you are a Michigan resident, the school that you list first will be the school that it will have, if they participate in the Michigan Tuition Grant or Michigan Competitive Scholarship, then that school will own your eligibility, essentially. So if you're going to be attending CCS, which I hope that you all will be, you will put our school first, okay? However, if you decide thinking, okay, you're going to go to Michigan State or Wayne State, but then in March, you're like, you know what, CCS is a school that I want to be at, you'll have to go into your FAFSA application, make that correction so to list our school first. So when the state of Michigan starts pulling their rosters, they can assign you to CCS. And as you all know or want to know, our school code, to make it easier so that you can search us, is 006771. The next section is your dependency status. So this determines whether a student is considered an independent status student, which will not need parent information, or a dependent status student, which will need parent information. So these are the questions that you'll have to answer. If you can answer anything yes, then you will be considered an independent status student. If you answer all of these no, you are considered a dependent status student and parent information is needed. Now, the biggest hiccup is this: were you born before January 1, 1999? You may be living on your own. You may be making a decent wage. You may be self-supporting. However, if you can't answer all of these questions, if you can't answer one of these questions yes, then you are considered a dependent student and would need parent information in order to move forward. So marital status. Parent marital status is surprisingly, this is a very tricky question for some reason. The question asks, as of today, what is the marital status of your parents? So you are filling out the FAFSA application on October 1. As of October 1, it is asking what your parents' marital status is. So it's either never married, unmarried, married or remarried, divorced or separated or widowed. It's one of those answers. Now, if your parents are married as of October 1, and then March of 2022, they have a falling out and they get divorced, your original FAFSA stays the same. You would want to then contact your financial aid advisor to discuss the recent situation to see if any adjustments can be made on the FAFSA application at that point. Okay. Now, say mom is single on October 1, and then she finds the guy of her dreams and gets married in November. She is not required to make a FAFSA correction as of the new marital status date, because at the time that she filled out the original FAFSA application, she was not married. So I just want to make it very clear, it's as of the day that you fill out the FAFSA application. So if you are considered a dependent student, you would be required to input your parent information. So your parent tax information is going off of your 2020, so not this year, but last year's tax information. The best way to get your tax information on the FAFSA application is to utilize the IRS data retrieval tool. It allows the IRS to transfer your tax data directly to the FAFSA application. So it will transfer the exact amounts, the correct amounts from your IRS transcript to the FAFSA data. This also helps eliminate many inconsistencies or wrong data, and it lessens your chance of being selected for verification. So up here, this is where your tax information would go. So that's why you need mom or dad's federal tax information. And then you would have your W-2 information down here. So you would pick that directly off of the wages line or your W-2s. So once the parent tax information is inputted, then it'll move on to the student tax filing information. So if the student did not file or will not file, then that section is pretty easy. All you do is mark that question, will not file, and then it'll move forward. If the student did file a 2020 tax return, then again, I would encourage using the IRS data retrieval tool. And that way it would automatically populate the correct numbers in the right fields. So once all of that is completed, this is time where you are going to sign and submit with your FSA ID and password. So again, this cannot be completed until you have a FSA ID and password. You can fill it out and you can save it, and then it'll force you to go create that FSA ID and password. And then once you get the email confirmation from the Social Security Administration that they've confirmed you, you will have to log back into FAFSA and make sure that you sign and submit that FAFSA, because it will not automatically update on its own. So this is used, your FSA ID and password is used for FAFSA completion and allows access to certain U.S. Department of Education websites, such as studentaid.gov, which you will complete your loan requirements on, NSLDS, which you'll be able to monitor your student loan borrowing and locate your lender information, as well as other websites. The FSA ID and password, it may be used by students and parents throughout the financial aid process. So this is generally a one and done. So once you've established an FSA ID and password, it stays the same with you as many years as you'll need it. Only the owner should create the FSA ID and password. So I have many students that will think, oh, my mom or dad's not gonna figure this out, I'll just do it. And then they create it, and then next year comes around and they forgot their information and can't remember what email address they used to complete it. So it creates a huge, long mess that prolongs the whole process with refilling, refilling out your FAFSA application. So I encourage students do their own and parents do their own. And then either have a centralized piece of paper, place in your phone, email, wherever you guys want to put it, so that you both have access to your FSA IDs and passwords in the event you're filling out FAFSA or any other federal forms that require it here on out. And again, the FSA ID and password is established online. So what to expect after the FAFSA submission? So you electronically signed it, you got the email confirmation saying that you completed it, your school's going to be notified. You're going to be given a SAR, or student aid report. And this is basically the full line item by line item of your FAFSA application that you submitted. It's available to print out at studentaid.gov, or it will be emailed to you. but the email must be correct in order to gain access. So this just gives you, like I said, line item by line item so that you can verify the information is accurate. So the processing steps. So the student submits the FAFSA. The FAFSA goes to the central processing system for processing. That generally happens within 24 to 48 hours. And then the FAFSA then, after it sends a CPS, CPS sends the FAFSA to the school for review and awarding. So when all said and done, the school is generally notified within, I like to say 5 to 7 business days. Once your FAFSA has successfully been submitted, processed, and sent over to the school. At that point, then the school can start its analysis and determining your financial aid award. So the FAFSA helps determine your expected family contribution, your EFC number, which schools then use to determine your financial aid eligibility, need-based aid, and so on and so forth. So it's a measurement of student and family's ability to pay for post-secondary educational expenses. It takes into consideration the student portion as well as the parent contribution if you are considered a dependent student. And again, the EFC number helps determine need-based financial aid eligibility. So that's your grants and your subsidized loan eligibility. So your financial needs. So determining your financial need calculation. So it's the cost of attendance minus the EFC, and that allows the school to know what your financial aid need is and helps with getting you awarded those need-based aid. So what does the FAFSA help the school do? Well, ultimately, it helps you helps the school figure out your comprehensive award package. So as you see here, based on my FAFSA application to CCS, which is completely fictitious, I was awarded a $10,000 CCS scholarship, CCS tuition grant, Michigan tuition grant, and federal supplemental education opportunity grant. I was also offered some loans and then a federal work study. So this is generally what a financial aid package would detail out for once the school gets you awarded. Now at CCS, we will email you as well as mail you out a comprehensive award package. It would detail out all your grants, your scholarships, and student loan eligibility. It would also we also provide a packet of information so that you know the next steps. So special circumstances. So you filled out your FAFSA application based on 2020 information. You received your financial aid award package, but then COVID-19 hits, or mom or dad lose their job, or the student loses their job. So now we're talking about a significant change in your financial situation. So, these are special circumstances, one-off, where you can contact the financial aid department and discuss the situation, and they can determine whether or not we can make any adjustments based on your more current financial situation. So special circumstances include divorce, loss of employment, parent or spouse death, extraordinary dependent care, secondary school tuition, or unusually high uncovered medical or dental expenses. So these are conditions that exist that cannot be documented on the FAFSA. What we at CCS require is that you send written explanation and documentation to the financial aid office. The college will review, potentially request additional information if needed. And then we make the decision on whether or not we can make any adjustments to the FAFSA data, which may bring you into more grant or scholarship eligibility. The decisions are final at the school level and cannot be appealed to the U.S. Department of Ed. And that just sums it up. So, we have about a half an hour or so left, and I see that many of you have been shooting off questions in the email in the chat box, which is awesome. And Iman has been great at keeping up on them. Feel free to unmute yourself to ask a question out loud if you want to. But if you have follow-up questions that you think about tomorrow, or 3 weeks from now, or even a couple months from now, feel free to reach out to us. We are in the office 5 days a week. Our phone number is here. We are reachable by email. And then if you want to set up a appointment with one of the counselors, or even myself, you can use the Calendly links, and you can sign up for a phone or a Zoom meeting where you can speak directly to your financial aid counselor or myself, and we can go over your questions and concerns and kind of walk you through the whole process. So with that being said, I am going to open it up to you guys. And please, not all at once.
Hey, Matt.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for all the information. I'm doing good. So you're not going to cover the CSS, right? Or maybe it's because your school do not need that one.
That's correct. Our school does not participate in that, so that's why I don't even cover that.
Okay. I saw some question from chat window. I think it's pretty much common. Like the critical question people ask is about if student has their own user ID and password, we parent has our own. But if we are going to help student to fill out their data, usually what to do? It's like they don't need to do anything. We fill out the form within our user account, and then they just need to sign it.
No, so if you're filling out the FAFSA application, the student needs to be logged in using his or her FSA ID and password. So the parent cannot log in under their FSA ID and password, because they would be technically filling it out for themselves, which would completely defeat the whole purpose. So you would have, if the parent is filling it out for the student or with the student, then they would be required to log in using the student's FSA ID and password, and then moving through the different processes from there.
Okay, so you're saying you need to log into student account to fill out all the data except the information for parent part. And then the parent has to log into their own.
Nope. So the parent would fill out their financial information on that application. So say your child's name is Johnny.
Yeah.
You would log in using Johnny's FSA ID and password. You would fill out the demographic information, Johnny's school of choice. Then you would go through the dependency questions for Johnny, and if he can't answer any of them, yes, he's considered a dependent student. So then Johnny would then either need to have you sit down with him, or he would have to have your information so he could fill out the parent demographic information. And then from there, it takes you right into the parent financial information, where you would use the IRS data retrieval tool to then transfer your financial data from the IRS to Johnny's FAFSA application. And then you and Johnny would then use separate FSA ID and passwords to then electronically sign the FAFSA and submit it.
Okay. So what you just explained, that everything need to be done within his account. The only thing for parent need the user ID is password. It's just an electronic signature, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes,
cool.
sir.
Yep. I'm all set. Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Angie and Will Armstrong here.
Yes.
My son Will has a question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've currently submitted my application and high school transcript.
Okay.
I haven't submitted my portfolio because I've heard from Sabrina Nelson I shouldn't submit it till December 1st because I wouldn't lose any scholarship opportunities by doing so. Would I lose any scholarship opportunities if I didn't submit my portfolio before the early action deadline?
No,
Oh, great. So as long as I get in by December 1st, it should be good.
that is correct.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yep, and I would encourage you to work with Sabrina to make sure that you're hitting all those benchmark dates so that you don't leave anything on the table. And that way we have all the pieces at once so that we can then, the CCS admissions office can make the decision on your scholarship amount.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, so there is a question about, oh, Iman answered it. So about international students being able to fill out the FAFSA application. So if that international student has not established US citizenship status, then unfortunately they would not be able to fill out your the FAFSA application. But please keep in mind, you are still eligible for work study opportunities, CCS merit awards, and then that CCS international student grant. I want to thank you guys for attending the presentation tonight. It was been a pleasure. You guys were a good group of participants. You guys are asking excellent questions. And Iman, I got to give you praise for keeping up with all the questions as quickly as you can.
Mr. Nasir, can we ask a question? Is there any way you can send that presentation format?
Yes, I believe the admissions office will send that out to all the participants.
Okay, great.
Yep. So look for it in probably the next coming days. They will send it out and make it available to you guys.
Okay, thank you so very much.
You are welcome. So Sakura asked if she has not used FAFSA info for many years. How does she go about getting a username and password? Well, if you at any point had an FSA ID and password, you could reestablish that. If you have not had an FSA ID and password, then you can set up a new one. It is attached to your Social Security number. So there is a link on the FSAID.ed.gov website that allows you to click on forgot username or forgot password. And then you can go ahead and follow the prompts through to see if you've ever established one. So Colin, I am not sure what your question is about. Is there a first generation college? So you could either unmute yourself or provide me some more information so I can get your question answered. Again, these are great questions, guys. And I believe that the admissions office will sum up the questions and also give you guys an FAQ with the presentation. We do have a lot, for Colin, we do have a lot of first generation students. And so we and Katie Gaither just put together as Carla mentioned, the first gen mentor groups. So there are resources on campus for first generation students that will help you along the process. Are there any more questions? Feel free to unmute yourself, ask them, put them in the chat. I'm going to give you guys about 3 more minutes. And again, if you guys think of anything after the presentation, if you guys think again anything, you know, a week, 2, a couple months down the line, again, feel free to reach out to us. Even if you don't think CCS is your first choice, which I hope it all is, we can still help you out with the process. Maybe, you know, encourage you to, you know, attend CCS, maybe an open house, come to another presentation. Maybe we can nudge you in the right direction. So there is one last question. Is the portfolio submission deadline for concept art the same as for other majors? Carla, can you put that into the chat real quick? I believe it is. Oh, concept design portfolio deadline is February 1. So you have a little bit longer to get your portfolio up to date. So if there are, but we suggest you, yeah. So even though they suggest you to complete an application by December 1, the actual portfolio deadline is February 1 to be considered for the concept art program. So if there are no other questions, I am going to end it. I hope you guys have a good rest of your night. And hopefully we'll see you on CCS campus.